All right, so where we left off, guys, with the last time was we left off with our first five presidents. So let's just review that. First five, of course, number one, George Washington. Number two, John Adams. Number three, Thomas Jefferson. Number four, James Madison. And number five, James Monroe. Now, they are actually all over here to your right. This is George Washington. This is John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe. Now, where we left off, the last person we talked about was Thomas Jefferson. He won the revolution of 1800, in which we saw the peaceful transition from the Federalist Party ran by John Adams, and then, of course, to what became known as the Democratic Republican Party, which was that of the old anti-Federalist with Thomas Jefferson. Now, Jefferson's goal and his whole ideology was that he believed in a strict interpretation of the Constitution. So his goal was to limit a limited federal government and give more power to state governments. However, Jefferson's actions with the Louisiana Purchase did the opposite. Okay, it did the complete opposite. Thomas Jefferson's there was nowhere in the Constitution that said the president had the authority to purchase land. He did that. There was nowhere in the Constitution that said that could happen. So now, why did Jefferson want to purchase the Louisiana Territory? Well, initially, all he wanted was New Orleans from France, because New Orleans was a key trading port at the mouth of the Mississippi. So the bottom of the Mississippi that came in from the Gulf, that's where New Orleans was. And it was important to American farmers. Jefferson was a supporter of what was known as the yeoman farmer, that individual farmer, that self-sufficient farmer, and he wanted to ensure that they had access to that to that as a way of getting their goods sold. So how it happened? Well, in 1803, France said, you know what? We'll not only sell you New Orleans, but we'll sell you this entire 828,000 square miles of what we have claim to in the New World from Louisiana, known as the Louisiana Territory, for $20 million. Jefferson said, cha-ching, let's rock and roll that bad boy. And as a result, the U.S. nearly, guys, and we'll see the map and you can see it down here, it nearly doubled in geographic size, meaning territorial size. And it cleared the way for a number of things to occur, such as the Lewis and Clark expedition. Now, there's another main point here that Jefferson is really re-emphasizing that was established by Washington. And what it is, guys, is that, you need to add this at the bottom of that notes, is that he also wanted to involve entangling alliances. He wanted to stay neutral. So France and Great Britain were consistently at each other's throats. And again, we said New Orleans, which was right here, was crucial to American farmers. So he was like, man, if France got really upset and they said we were going to close the port down to Americans trying to get their goods out, they would be forced to side with the French because it was that important. And they didn't want them to have that over their head. And so to avoid an alliance is where they have an agreement, countries coming together. Another word we like to call these are entangling alliances. It's like when you get your earbuds out and they're all tangled up, okay, there's a problem. So to stay neutral, we also advocated this. Now, so during his presidency, he's going to push the Lewis and Clark expedition. And what the Lewis and Clark expedition is going to do is that it's going to explore the geography, the terrain, the plants, the animals, the people west of the Mississippi, and it is going to open the land for settlement. Everybody got me on that? So people know what it's like out here, but they need a resource, a guide. So when I get west of the Mississippi and I live over here in Philadelphia, what am I going to see? What am I going to experience? What type of things do I need to take as I want to settle this territory? What type of Native Americans? Are they hostiles? What groups are they going to be open to us? Are they going to trade? Are we going to be able to go out there and are there going to be natural resources? Are there going to be food crops that are just naturally spawning out there? What are we going to be able to do to make money as we go out there? And the Lewis and Clark expedition is going to do that for us. Now, Important people are going to be Sacagawea. Sacagawea, of course, was instrumental in the success of the expedition because she acted as an interpreter and guide. And of course, as you see down here on the in the middle, the 2000 coin, the gold dollar with Sacagawea, of course, put on it, and she has also been honored in stamps as well. Now, as a result, guys, this is going to open up the floodgates for westward expansion. People are going to be like, woohoo, let's roll on to the west. Settlement, hunting, trade, along with it, guys, is that you're going to see a dramatic change for Native Americans living both east and west of the Mississippi River. Now we're going to have more consistent interaction, and the Native American way of life on the western side of the Mississippi was very different that of the eastern side. And we'll explain that as we kind of begin to talk about the conflicts we're going to see. Now, Jefferson's presidency is over. By that time, his Secretary of State, also the father of the Constitution, we're seeing him again, James Madison becomes president. James Madison's presidency is going to be dominated by the War of 1812. And this is not a trick question. The War of 1812 began in, if you said 1812, you would be correct. Now, this is also known as the Second American Revolution. So what's going to happen is Britain's still pretty upset. They got, they're like, man, I can't believe we lost those guys across the pond, really the ocean. And so what they're kind of doing is they're doing things to kind of just pick on the Americans. And so the British policy, there was something known as impressments. All right. And so pretty much what they would do is the British Navy would pull over an American ship, and they take the sailors off and they say, hey, man, you're going to serve in the British Navy. These are American citizens. British are loading up on the boats, and they're saying, hey, man, you're going to fight for us. This is going to make a lot of people very upset. And then, we just got the Louisiana Territory, and the British were still giving military support to Native Americans to stop American expansion. They're like, here you go, man. There's some, here's some weapons. Maybe you don't let these guys, maybe you kind of resist a little bit. So this is really making a lot of Americans upset. And also you have a group known as the War Hawks that are saying, it wouldn't be bad if we got into Canada. So the war is going to be fought. The U.S. is going to win, but it's important to know that these are going to be the issues that's going to lead to it. The U.S. will win the war. The effect, though, guys, is that after this ended all U.S. military hostility with Great Britain, and the military achievements served to heighten national settlements. Okay, served to heighten national settlements. And this is big. Okay, in James Madison's presidency, which now we fought the greatest power in the world, and we've now defeated him again for not once but twice. Now people are really feeling proud of themselves. All right, and here's kind of just you can see a battle, a makeup of it. A couple keynotes is that the British will actually set that White House on fire during the War of 1812. You're going to see the major here's the Battle of Fort McHenry, which we'll kind of talk about here in a minute. And then you have a very major important battle, the Battle of New Orleans, which actually happens after the war is over. But you can kind of see that a lot of fighting is occurring on the border of Canada and the United States. So now, as a result, James Monroe comes into presidency. Okay. And what has happened as a result of the War of 1812 is that it's over and we won. We see the end of the Federalist Party, so we're seeing a era of national pride and political unity. Really, the Democratic Republican Party at this point is the only party. Federalist Party wanted to leave the U.S. and all this during the War of 1812, and so they're pretty much like people saw them as traitors. So James Monroe's presidency is known as the era of good feeling. Everybody's like, hey, man, I am proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And so everybody's feeling themselves. And so is President Monroe. And so President Monroe is going to go even a step further. We've done beat the British twice. And so now we're going to tell everybody in Europe, we're going to issue a doctrine, meaning our political philosophy, the way we think, this is how we're going to do things. And it's going to be the Monroe Doctrine. And he's going to tell anybody over in Europe that if they attempt to oppress, okay? It stated that attempt by oppressed powers to Europe. Okay, so this is messed up. All right. So if European powers try to oppress or control another nation in the Western Hemisphere, this would be seen as a hostile act against the United States. So long story short, Coach Coffee messed that up. Other words, Europe, if you try to mess with the Western Hemisphere, and if we see over here our map, all right, North America, South America, if you try to oppress any country over here with power, with military power, then we're going to view that as a hostile act against us. So in other words, it said the United States were the protectors of the Western Hemisphere. We're going to stand on the outside. We're going to tell y'all we're watching. We're watching. We're watching. So now, so that kind of sets us up for we're going to see with our number 6 and our number 7 presidents, and of course the number 7th being Andrew Jackson. Now, just a quick little note: what was written by the War of 1812? Again, everybody's proud to be an American. We defeat the British for the second time. If you said the Star Spangled Banner, the national anthem, you would be correct. All right. And now, of course, let's just look at "Oh Say Can You See" by the dawn's early light was so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming. Okay. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that the flag was still there. So there's my main man is actually on a boat. He's been captured by the British, the guy who wrote this song. And he's been captured by the British, and he's on a boat, and he sees bombs going off. But he looks up and he sees the flag still standing there, going on. So after this, again, guys, very nationalism, proud of the nation that you're from. And that's what we're going to see after the War of 1812. And that's why we have an era of good feeling. If you have any questions, please let me know. And then, of course, that will lead us into the Jacksonian era, which we've already seen a little bit. So if you have any questions, please let me know. And always remember to smile is contagious.